Trump set to sign executive order shuttering the Education Department. Closing the department requires an act of Congress, but Trump could make it nearly impossible for remaining employees to carry out their work, much like at USAID. President Donald Trump is expected to sign an executive order Thursday to close the Education Department, fulfilling a years-long pledge to dismantle the federal agency, the White House confirmed. Trump will hold an event at the White House to sign the order directing Education Secretary Linda McMahon to take all necessary steps to facilitate the closure of the Department of Education and return education authority to the states, while continuing to ensure the effective and uninterrupted delivery of services, programs, and benefits on which Americans rely. Formally closing the department requires an act of Congress. But even without formally shutting it down, the Trump administration could effectively make it nearly impossible for employees to carry out their work, as it has done with the U.S. Agency for International Development. President Jimmy Carter established the department in 1979 after Congress passed the Department of Education Organization Act in bipartisan votes. McMahon recently moved to drastically reduce the size of the Education Department by cutting its workforce in half. She called the job terminations the first step toward shutting down the department. That was the president's mandate, McMahon said last week in an interview with Fox News. His directive to me, clearly, is to shut down the Department of Education, which we know will have to work with Congress, to get that accomplished. McMahon similarly vowed at her Senate confirmation hearing to work with Congress to advance Trump's plan to dismantle the department. She telegraphed in an email to employees this month that major changes were coming. Our job is to respect the will of the American people and the president they elected, who has tasked us with accomplishing the elimination of bureaucratic bloat here at the Department of Education, a momentous final mission, quickly and responsibly, she wrote, according to a copy obtained by NBC News. The Senate confirmed McMahon in a 51-45 vote. No Democrat voted for her. Trump has suggested that he could garner enough congressional support to formally close the department, characterizing teachers' unions as more of a threat to the plan than lawmakers. I think I'd work with Congress, Trump said last month in the Oval Office. We'd have to work with the teachers' union, because the teachers' union is the only one that's opposed to it. It is unclear whether Trump has secured the support of any Democratic lawmakers, many of whom have balked at his efforts on that front. Senator Patty Murray, Democrat Washington, the top Democrat on the Appropriations Committee, accused Trump and Elon Musk, the de facto head of the Department of Government Efficiency, of robbing our students and families of critical funding. The effects of Trump and Musk's slash-and-burn campaign will be felt across our state by students and families who suffer from the loss of department staff working to ensure their rights under federal law, school districts who have to lay off teachers, students who can't get the help they need to get financial aid, and families who get ripped off because the watchdogs were fired, Murray said in a statement Wednesday night. This issue is personal for me, and for every single family. We cannot relent in this fight. A coalition of 21 Democratic attorneys general filed a lawsuit last week arguing any attempt by Trump to eliminate the department is unlawful. Because neither the president nor his agencies can undo the many acts of Congress that authorize the department, dictate its responsibilities, and appropriate funds for it to administer. The president's directive to eliminate the Department of Education, including through the March 11 decimation of the department's workforce and any other agency implementation, is an unlawful violation of the separation of powers, and the executive's obligation to take care that the law be faithfully executed. The lawsuit reads: the Education Department is one of the smallest cabinet-level departments. Its $268 billion appropriations last year represented 4% of the U.S. budget. The department does not dictate curricula used in classrooms. It is largely a funding and civil rights enforcement organization, distributing money for schools with high rates of impoverished students and to assist children with disabilities. It also runs the public student loan program, which has more consumer protections and lower interest rates than private education loan programs. Trump's executive order will direct McMahon to ensure the agency's funds do not go toward programs or activities that advance diversity, equity, and inclusion goals or gender ideology. The Education Department last week announced investigations into more than 50 universities it accused of engaging in race exclusionary practices in their graduate programs. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI, is a widely used label applied to efforts to improve workplace culture and create more opportunities for disadvantaged groups, and they are not inherently discriminatory. National Education Association President Becky Pringles said in a statement Wednesday that Trump's effort to close the education department could have disastrous implications for students across the country. If successful, Trump's continued actions will hurt all students by sending class sizes soaring, cutting job training programs, making higher education more expensive and out of reach for middle-class families, taking away special education services for students with disabilities, and gutting students' civil rights protections, Pringles said in a statement. She accused Trump and Musk of aiming their wrecking ball at public schools and the futures of the 50 million students in rural, suburban, and urban communities across America to pay for tax handouts for billionaires. McMahon said last week that at least 3 DOJ staffers had been auditing the education department. Carrie Rodriguez, the president of the National Parents Union, said dismantling the department would disproportionately affect the most vulnerable communities. Let's be clear, before federal oversight, millions of children, particularly those with disabilities and those from our most vulnerable communities, were denied the opportunities they deserved, Rodriguez said in a statement Wednesday night. The Department of Education was created to ensure that every child, regardless of background or zip code, has access to a public education that prepares them for their future. Eliminating it would roll back decades of progress, leaving countless children behind in an education system that has historically failed the most marginalized. Trump has long pledged to dismantle the education department, first mentioning the idea during his previous term and campaigning on the promise extensively throughout the 2024 election. He has suggested that states should take over administering educational policy and that other parts of the federal government could absorb current agency responsibilities, like overseeing federal student loans. Your state is going to control your children's education. We're moving it out of Washington immediately, Trump said at a campaign event last year in Saginaw, Michigan. We're going to do that very fast, and it's going to be great.